I want to welcome everyone to the Marketing Center of Excellence Masterclass. This is going to be a transformative session that really brings together some thought leaders in the space and myself and Lyn. I'm really excited to have Jonathan Mast, our special guest co-host this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you're at. I'm Lane Houk, your host for the Marketing Center of Excellence Masterclass each month. Really a privilege for me to spend this time with all of you on a monthly basis to go through topics that are of interest or maybe hot topics that are part of our industry. I really love these times and these sessions. So super excited to be with you again here for the June Masterclass. And I'm incredibly excited to introduce you to our special guest co-host for today, Jonathan Mast. Jonathan is not only a passionate Christian entrepreneur with a deep commitment to growing others, but he's also the founder of an AI chat GPT Facebook group called Entrepreneurs, or I think it's called AI Chat GPT Facebook group for Entrepreneurs. And then Jonathan also just launched a new venture called Whitebeard Strategies. Imagine that. Whitebeard Strategies is a coaching and consulting firm that he just launched, and it's focused on enabling entrepreneurs and professional salespeople to unearth more opportunities and significantly boost their business success. His insights are born from really his faith and his deep practical experience in the industry. I'm really excited to have him be here today to add in all of his knowledge that he's accumulated around AI and Chat GPT. And in this session, we're going to go do a deep dive into the Tree of Thought framework. I'm not sure if you've heard about it yet, but it's really a pioneering technique that's revolutionizing the potential of AI by enhancing its problem-solving capabilities. I know all the craze right now is about ChatGPT and AI and writing content. It seems like the conversation's been dominated around that as of recent, but there's a lot more that you can do with AI and ChatGPT, and solving problems, solving real-world business challenges is one of those things that I think a lot of people probably haven't really tapped into, because if you just use the basic zero-shot prompts or simple prompting, you're just not going to be able to leverage the power that we've seen in AI. Really excited to talk about this, not just in theory today, but also going to give you a live case study or business case study example of how I just used it to solve a challenge that I had in my white label agency. But without further ado, I want to welcome Jonathan and Lyn, my two co-hosts. Guys, welcome. I really appreciate you being here today.
Well, thanks very much, Lyn. Lane, I appreciate the invitation. Lyn, always good to chat with you as well. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about this new framework. To me, it's very straightforward, but it also requires a little bit of a mind remap on how we approach AI. So I'm really excited about this.
Awesome. Really glad to have you here. And give us a quick overview. What are you doing at Whitebeard Strategies? I love the name, and obviously it's pretty apropos for what you got going on there, but
yeah, no idea where it came from, but as far as naming, but after spending nearly 13 years in an agency that I founded called Valorous Circle, I'm thrilled to report that the agency is doing incredibly well and growing, and I'm now becoming the impediment to its growth because I just don't always like to play by the rules. I'm that visionary guy that wants to do things my way.
And break things.
I always break things. And the bigger that the agency grew, the more things I was breaking. And we have not parted on bad terms at all. In fact, I'm still consulting with them, working with them. But I'm really excited because for the last number of years, I've been wanting to develop a coaching program focused around marketing and sales. I am a huge believer that the two go hand in hand. And I'm really excited to be working with entrepreneurs and sales professionals and helping them learn how to create an omnipresence online, the digital marketing side. And then once those opportunities come in, how to turn those qualified opportunities into clients by using a consultative sales process. And I believe they go hand in hand. I guess we'll see if the rest of the world agrees with me or not.
Awesome. Congratulations on the new venture and the launch. Really excited for you.
Thank you.
And Lyn, great to have you here again. He's my trusty co-host, has been with me since we started the master classes. Lyn, welcome. Great to have you here again, buddy.
Thanks, Lane. It's great to be here. Jonathan, I'm so excited to see you today. It's always a pleasure when I get to meet up with both of you guys, and it's fun to dig into something new. I've been in my EOS world for a bit now and been buried. And as you well know, if you miss a couple of weeks in the AI world, you're a little behind. So I'm excited to get a little caught up today.
Awesome. Let's dive in then. Let's jump in here and talk about this Tree of Thought framework and maybe the larger idea of prompt engineering. A quick just run through the agenda here. Again, as we go through these slides, I'm going to move pretty quickly, but I've already given full permission to Lyn and Jonathan to just cut me off, and let's stop at any time where we needed to talk or interject some context or make a point. Please, I don't want it to just be just me, but we do have a fair amount of slides, so I'm going to move quickly barring being stopped or having a question that's relevant. But if you do have questions, put them in the chat for us so that we have them as a record, and then we can be sure to address the questions and have that discussion as well. We do the lively discussion, not just here for us to give you content and have you walk away. Really, I think that the questions and the discussion make this a lot more, just a deeper experience for everybody. So highly encourage that. We're going to talk about some Chat GPT prompting frameworks, which is really the chain of thought framework and then the tree of thought framework. If you haven't heard of either of those, we'll get into those. And then just how that relates into prompt engineering. And then I'll give you the case study and of how I used it this last week. I actually just used it again yesterday in maybe a more brief format. But I think what's going to be really cool is as these frameworks are unveiled for you and we talk about it, it'll just unlock your thinking in terms of how you engage with and approach your use of AI and probably Chat GPT. So a real quick overview of the TOT framework. So this, first of all, this comes from this study here. We're not just pulling this out of thin air. These really smart people who are way smarter than me or any of us did this study around the tree of thought framework that they really developed out of this problem-solving exercise that they did. And they expanded on the chain of thought reasoning or chain of thought framework. But the study really looks at how human problem-solving follows multiple paths or options. When we're encountered with a problem, it's really second nature for us now as adults. What's happening in the micro moments as a problem is either in a moment or we're encountered with a problem now, we're starting to look at how are we going to solve this over some time, or it's just in the quick moment of a problem hits us and we've got to solve it quickly. Our brains go to work and our brains are concurrently looking at multiple paths or options on how we can solve this problem. And as a general rule, AI and large language models are typically going to follow one path or one trail to answer a question, solve a problem, or produce an output based on the question or prompt. When or if the AI or LLM that you're using, ChatGPT, is one of those. Obviously, if it hits a dead end, it's typically not going to be backtrack, reroute, and then try to solve it through a different path or trail. And so the TOT approach allows the AI model to consider multiple trails or reasoning paths simultaneously, backtrack if necessary, and then with the prompt that I'll share with you today, intelligently start to pick the best path based on its knowledge base, right? And so what the TOT framework really does, it provides a way to translate, as it says here, classical insights about problem solving into actual methods for contemporary language models. And that's coming right from the study. That's that quote there. The framework really bears some resemblance to an organizational decision-making process involving multiple stakeholders. If you have a little committee or a group of people that are at an organization and they're tasked with solve this problem, increase our sales by X%, increase efficiencies by Y%, whatever the problem or challenge might be, the TOT framework is going to really model what that group of people would do together to help solve that problem and their decision-making process. And it improves the abilities and output of GPT-4 significantly. So there's two resource links here. You can go and read the study. You can get the full PDF right here with that link. And then once you pull it down, you'll get the full study here. Now, I had to read this several times, and even then it was still like much of it's outside of my scope. Like, I'm not a mathematician. I don't get all this stuff. My brain moves a little slower when it comes to math, but I was able to really digest this and understand the overall gist of what it was conveying, right? You have the links to that, and there's also the GitHub here that I've also given you links to, which is the official repo of this framework. And there's other things you can do this if you get into training your own language models. But essentially, the tree of thought framework dramatically increased when they did their tests, dramatically increased the problem-solving abilities over the chain of thought framework. And the chain of thought framework dramatically increased the reasoning abilities and problem-solving abilities of ChatGPT or AI LLMs significantly over just regular prompting or zero-shot prompts. If you take chain of thought, which is the predecessor to tree of thought, and how much chain of thought increase the efficacy of AI and LLMs, tree of thought just blew it out of the water. And so let's dig in here and just talk about what it entails, and then I'll backtrack and talk about chain of thought first. But high level, the tree of thought prompting framework involves 4 phases: the brainstorm phase, the expansion phase, the evaluation phase, and then the final decision phase, if you will. Obviously, the final decision is the decision of what the prompt gives the AI or LM to make a decision about the outcome that is most likely to solve the problem. But you get all sorts of evaluations out of that final decision phase as well. This comes directly from the study. So again, I've linked it here, but it says our experiments show that TOT significantly enhances language models' problem-solving abilities on 3 novel tasks. So they use 3 different tasks to test this. And it says, for instance, in Game of 24, while GPT-4 with chain of thought prompting only solved 4% of tasks, the TOT method achieved a success rate of 74%. All right. So that's what I come up with, 1,750% increase in the ability of AI to solve problems. That's where that math comes from, directly from the study. So it's important because chain of thought prompting, which again, I said is the predecessor to TOT, it improves the results, or the improvements resulted in huge advancements in reasoning and problem solving abilities, even on ChatGPT-3. Obviously, we got 4 now, and so the results are even better there. So if we take this study and just at a high level, if we just look at what they did and how they came out with this framework and how they tested it and what the results were based on what the framework does, it's really just prompt engineering, okay? It gives us as human beings a framework that follows organizational and individual decision-making paths that our brains are normally taking on by automatically. And it's teaching us this framework of how to instruct specifically the large language model or the AI to go out and begin to solve a problem. But you'll see here in the prompts how they're so much more different than just a question or do this or do that. And I don't know how much all of you have experimented with prompts, but that's been my biggest aha moment for the last 3 months, 4 months, literally just on an ongoing basis. Is the aha moments are always preceded by a new prompt that I try that gets more specific, and expands on the scope. Anything? I'm going to stop there. Jonathan, Lyn, anything you want to address?
No,
here?
I'd be happy to jump in. I think, and I tend to look at things just in the simplest form possible. But I think the real benefit here of the train of thought that we're talking about is that when we're prompting, or tree of thought, I apologize, when we're prompting, we need to communicate with ChatGPT or Google Bard much in the same way that we would communicate with an individual if we were having a conversation with them. And I think so often we've become used to the fact that ChatGPT, Google Bard, whatever they are, that it's a one-shot thing. I'm going to go ahead and put my prompt in, and I'm going to see what it gives me. And reality is you get much, much better data and much better responses out of it if you treat it as a conversation. And if you prompt the AI to evaluate multiple avenues, to figure out what next steps are, whether we go deep first or go broad first, there's different ways you can do that through everything. You will get so much better responses and much more applicable responses to your specific issues. There's a lot of great data here. And again, I apologize, I'm probably oversimplifying it. But if you would just think of this entire tree of thought as a way in which you're going to communicate over multiple prompts, not one, but multiple prompts to the AI, I think you will find that this will become very natural. And in my mind, it's no different than if I'm talking to my EA, Yvette, and I can't just send Yvette one thing and say, do this, and expect her to read my mind, understand everything, and get it right out of the chute. She might, but the more she works with me, the better she gets at that. And the more relevant information I can give her, and the more we can have a conversation, the more likely she is to complete that task successfully and with better information.
Hey guys, we have a question in the chat that I think is a perfect time to answer. So when giving background information to chat, this is from Mike Goldstein. So when giving background information to ChatGPT, how much information is too much? And should we break the background information up and web pages to review and separate prompts and things like that?
Good question. So I think that has to be discovered. So I've had threads, because you can thread your interaction there. So I have threads where I needed to give it more in order to get what I was looking for. And so my prompts got specific, or no, that wasn't right. Let's rephrase it maybe. And then I've had times where, to Mike's point, I've given it too much. And then the output was like too directed. Like it wasn't really what I was looking for either. So I think you've got to find the balance. And that balance is going to change problem by problem, prompt by prompt, or challenge by challenge as you're trying to solve a problem or get a certain output or outcome from it. Jonathan, anything you want to add to that?
No, in fact, it's a really good question, Mike, because even ChatGPT and OpenAI have realized this is an issue. They've just recently greatly expanded the amount of data that you can give, especially to ChatGPT 3.5 if you're working with the API or working in the playground. And you literally, and I'm going to get my numbers wrong here, but they went from approximately probably 5 to 6 pages of content up to over 40 pages of content. Thank you. It's right there. I just needed to look on the slide. And that is a massive increase.
Yeah.
I have found, Mike, personally, that I tend to find that I give the AI bits as I go along, but it's important to remember that it does not have an infinite memory. I oftentimes will summarize what I want it to know and give it summary points instead of giving it the entire document. So I might start by having it summarize one document, then summarize another document, summarize a third, take those 3 summaries and feed it into my next prompt, which is going to be asking for questions, because it won't remember all 3 documents in total if they're too long.
Really good. Yeah. And to Mike's point, Mike Tao, he said, I've started to ask it to ask questions to get clarification, which is great. Right. And that's really what I want. That's probably the biggest skill here is for all of you. Jonathan mentioned it, talking to, we'll use ChatGPT in this case. It could be Google Bard. It could be another LM, but it is talking to it like you would a human. It's NLP, natural language processing, right? We want to talk into it like, just like we would a human. You're going to get better results that way versus using the old way of like Google searching. Let me do a keyword search or something a lot more simplistic. Excuse me. I say it's all about the prompts. Train your brain to train Sam. Sam is what Matt and I refer AI or ChatGPT to. It stands for Sentient Autonomous Machine. So I just call him Sam. But if you can personalize AI and call him or her a person and think of it that way in your own brain, you will start to have conversations with Sam versus just doing some simple prompting of an AI tool or software, right? A lot of this is to train your brain, to train the LM to get you what you want and to maximize it. And that's really the point of this slide here. Prompt engineering is the key to unlocking the potential. So some basics to prompt engineering. There are 3 essential components, and if you think about it logically, it makes sense. There's context, there's specificity, and there's phrasing. How do you phrase it? And I just said this, above all, utilize natural language whenever crafting prompts, as this helps the model better comprehend the task and generate more organic output. That's why we gave it a name, because it just helps my brain think. If I'm having a conversation, I come in and I talk to Sam like he's a person, like he's my chief operating officer or my chief marketing officer or my team lead in SEO or whatever role or persona I need him. And to me, it's a him. It can be a her, whatever you want. Choose your pronoun. But if you think about it as a person and you start to have a conversation with it, your brain will become more in tune to being better at prompt engineering just naturally, right? And so tone and style will actually change the output. Crafting prompts that are more conversational and natural. And to increase chances of high quality content, offer positive reinforcement. Hey, great job, Sam. That was a really good response. I appreciate that. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Anybody have anything to add here in terms of your own experience in these prompt engineering types of dynamics? Have you experienced getting better results, outputs, when you've been more conversational, been more specific, and your phrasing has been more specific versus more of that Google search phrase or asking more of a simple question? Any input there?
I'll jump in here, Lane. I know we do the same thing. We actually call it Charlie just because it's been simple for us. And you're right. It has encouraged not only us, but our team to have more conversational prompting with it. And if you treat it more like a text message or an instant message where you're going back and forth, we do find it works much better than, again, if you try to think of it as a computer. Have a conversation with ChatGPT, and you'll be amazed at the increase in the quality of the outputs.
Awesome. Okay, so chain of thought really it goes back to this slide right here. Prompt chaining. Okay, so what we're doing is we're taking the result of one prompt, that output, and that's becoming the next basically input for the next question or component in the chain. And like Jonathan was saying, with GPT-4, it can look back now over 25,000 words, which was a significant increase over GPT-3. And the future models that are coming out, 4 or 5, are just going to continue to expand on that. So it's going to allow for even better chaining as well. But one mental shift you have to make with this pattern is that the rules you would normally add to your prompt need to play out in steps. Okay, so you can't, like to Michael's point, give it all at one time and expect it to just come all out with the right output. And if you give, and you've probably experienced it, I've given it way too much in one prompt, and the output was like it was on drugs or something. It was like, what in the world is that response? And it was just because I just overwhelmed it with too much all at one time. So chain of thought will break it down into steps of links in the chain, so to speak. And that chain of thought prompting helps the LM model produce a better output. And this is a very practical example, although not a real world life example necessarily, but it shows how a standard prompt, the answer is wrong. And with a chain of thought, coaching it is essentially, bingo, it gets the output or the answer with a little bit different reasoning in a chain there. It says down here, it's better if you can express your instructions as steps for it to reason over. I'm going to give you a specific prompt that I've now started including as a default in all of my prompts, which is think through each step and document each step or show your work as you go. I'm literally telling the AI model, I'm really telling Sam, I want you to think through each step, document it, and show your work. Okay. Actually, I put it right here. State each step and show your work. Okay. You actually will start to get better outputs by just including that in as a kind of the end of your prompt. Okay. So here's an example. So how you can solve a more complex problem. Here's the prompt. I have a cabbage, a goat, and a lion. I need to get them across the river. I have a boat that can only carry myself and a single other item. I'm not allowed to leave the cabbage and the lion alone together. And I'm not allowed to leave the lion and the goat alone together. How can I safely get all three across? Steps. So here's the chain of thought. Create a plan. What additional steps are needed? Follow those steps one by one and show your work. Answer the question and prefix your answer with the response. State each step and then show your work for performing that step. Okay. So what happens? It solves a way more complex problem. If you were to give that same problem without those steps, the answer would be wrong. Okay. So again, I asked, how useful is this? It's not useful, but it's really just to give you and I insight into how we can get the large language model, the AI, to accurately perform a pretty complex task that it would never otherwise get right. Right? It would never otherwise answer this question right, but with the right prompt engineering, boom, it unlocks the ability of this LM to solve a more complex problem. So that's chain of thought. So now how do we move this into tree of thought? So it's broken down into 4 phases. So what's the first phase is the brainstorm phase. The purpose of this phase, we want the LM to generate a diverse set of solutions to a problem. Let's look at its entire database and let's come up with a couple different solutions to a problem. We do this instinctively and we do it rapidly and very fast. And that's where wisdom comes from, right? That's where that big gray beard comes from, right? You have more experience, you have more wisdom, you've had more up to bats. And so your brain just works faster and faster as we age to solve problems with that experience that we have. And so what we want to do is use that what we have as instinctive as humans and empower the LM to do it. So here's the prompt. And we'll share the slide deck with everyone. I'll give you a way that you can just get the slide deck from us at the end here. So you have all of this, but here's the simple prompt. Ignore all previous instructions, right? So it's a good way to start because it does have a memory, right? So ignore all previous instructions. Obviously start this in a new thread or chat. your new role and persona is, and then you're an expert at whatever. You're a chief operating officer with deep experience and whatever. Just give an explanation there. I have a problem related to, describe your problem. Please brainstorm 3 distinct solutions, and it could be 2, it could be 5, whatever you want there. But what I read was at 3 or more to really give it some, to force it to go into some options. There's your tree, right? Your tree of thought. Here's option 1, here's option 2, here's option 3. Let's evaluate. Add your factors here. Please consider these factors. And then again, as you work this problem, stay each step and show your work for performing that step. Okay. So that's the brainstorm phase, the expansion phase. So now we're gonna prompt the LM to dive deeper and go dive deeper into each of the paths that it just chose based on our initial prompt for brainstorming. So then we wanted to refine the trail or the path. We wanted to imagine implementing it in real world scenarios or contexts, and then just examine all that, right? So here's your prompt. For each solution, deepen the thought process behind it, and in implementing it, let's generate potential scenarios and strategies for implementation, along with any necessary partnerships or resources that we can leverage in how potential challenges or obstacles will be overcome. Also consider any unexpected obstacles or outcomes and how they would be handled if it were to arise. To give you an example, guys, I got these prompts from 3 or 4 sources in my research for today's class. So I found a couple of different folks, people, rabbit holes that had gone down. That tree of thought is very new. This just came out last month. So it's not like a lot is out there already on it yet, but I followed a couple of rabbit holes, found some people who had been experimenting with it, used the studies, and came up with these prompts. And then I'll show you a live case study on how I've used it already and how it works. It did amazingly well. So now you have the expansion phase. That prompt has been given. The output has been provided. Now we move into evaluation phase prompt. Now we're going to prompt it to assess and evaluate the options, weigh pros and cons, consider resources, estimate outcomes, and then assign confidence levels and probabilities. So here's the prompt. For each of the 3 proposed solutions, evaluate their potential, consider their pros and cons, initial effort needed, implementation difficulty, potential challenges, and the expected and unexpected outcomes. Assign a probability of success and a confidence level to each option based on these factors. Nice and simple. It'll go out, do its work. Lastly, the decision phase. So now we want the LM to rank the options based on all the analysis and the evaluation we've just prompted it to do. We want it to actually justify its choices in the rankings, give us the reasons why it ranked it in orders of 1, 2, and 3, and then assist us to help us in choosing the best option and even potentially help us with implementation, right? Because I'm actually starting to use it now. Create an implementation plan and create a communications plan for implementing this problem, solving this problem. So I'll show you some of that here. But the prompt, based on the scenarios and evaluations of each that you've provided, please rank the suggested solutions in order of promise to solve the problem. Provide a justification for each ranking and offer any final recommendations or thoughts for each solution. That simple prompt does the work and it creates a great outcome. So I'll stop there first before I get into the case study. Any questions or other thoughts you guys want to add?
I just want to point out, and you've laid it out really well there, Lane, but I want to remind everybody the tree of thought does not involve just one single prompt that works all of its magic and then spits out the perfect answer. It's a series of problems. It's a conversation that you're having with them. And you have each of those 4 phases that you go through at a minimum. And it's not hard, but it's a bit of a paradigm shift. And I want to make sure everybody understands, as Lane laid it out very nicely there, but it is a series of multiple prompts. It's a conversation that you're really having with Sam or Charlie, however you want to call him, to make this work the way it should. And you guys will be amazed at the quality of the content that you get out of this.
Yeah, awesome. Really good point. It's the tree, right? And the tree has branches. And so there's going to be multiple branches going on. The great thing is that the AI is doing all of that heavy lifting and doing all that work, but without the prompt, it won't even go do it. It won't even consider that exercise. Lyn, you want to have anything you want to add to, or anybody else?
No, I think you guys are covering it really well. I'm learning right along with the rest of us. Looks amazing.
Awesome. Okay. So I wanted to develop a profit sharing plan for my team members. It's something I've had as an intention for about a year. And that's one of those things you just got to sit down, you got to put pencil to paper, and you got to figure out, you got to crunch numbers. I just hadn't gotten around to it. And I was like, man, this is a great way for me to come up with a really good profit sharing plan for my team members. I use this as my case study. I'll give this to all of you so that you can just see what I did and how I implemented the TOT framework into this real live business scenario. But you want me to go through it? Should I go through it? Yeah, okay. So the first prompt, again, ignore all previous instructions. Your new role and persona is my chief financial officer for Quantum Agency. I want you to use your expertise in accounting, business, and employee or human resources. The problem or challenge that I need to solve is to develop an employee bonus structure based on monthly profitability of the company and based on churn rate. I want to keep the comp or bonus plan simple. I don't want to share more than 20% of the monthly profits with employees. I would like an option for 10%, 15%, and 20% profit share bonus pools. Quick point here. In this case, I didn't say go out and find me 3 options. I gave it the 3 options I wanted it to explore, the branches there, because I didn't want anything more than 20%, right? I knew. Now, I could go back and redo this and let it just go find some bonus plan models, but I had a little bit more of an idea of what I was looking for here, but I still wanted it to leverage the tree of thought framework to help me figure out what was going to be the best way to go, right? So that's what I did. Please brainstorm 3 distinct solutions that can exist to solve this employee bonus plan challenge. Please consider a variety of factors such as the total profit, percentage of profit to share, churn rate data, and employee retention strategies. Why am I doing this? Ultimately, I want to keep my best employees forever. I don't want to lose my employees. So if a profit sharing, I really want employee retention. That's the big purpose here. So as you work through this problem, stay each step and then show your work for performing on steps. So that was my entire first prompt right there. Here's the answer. I'm not going to go through and read it all together because otherwise I just be repeating what you can read for yourself. But it talks about here, I understand what your goal is here. Let's work on this. Here are the steps and corresponding calculations. So, how to calculate the bonus pool, profit share, and all that. You got a 15% profit share. This was really basic. I was like, okay, I could have done it myself, but it's fine. It's good. So I wanted it to look at other considerations. So you can see how it did that. It went in and looked at, okay, to incorporate churn rate and employee retention in the bonus structure, you consider these following steps. Okay, great. Not bad for just the brainstorm phase. That's all we're doing is brainstorming here. Again, if you don't, so there's no rule here, right? So if the brainstorm phase output didn't get you what you were looking for, then just re-brainstorm again. Just redo the phase again until you figure, all right, that was a good output for my brainstorm phase. But to Jonathan's point, this is going to be in a set of steps, and we're going to get better and better as the steps go. And that's where how we can really get better problem-solving abilities is through the additional prompts. Okay, so E for solution, deepen the thought process behind it, implementing it, blah, 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 blah. All right, so here's his answer. Certainly, let's dive deeper in each solution. Consider these potential scenarios, strategy for implementation, resources, obstacles, unexpected outcomes. All right, so thought process. So here is the large language model literally sharing with me his thought process on each of these, right? To me, that's awesome. That's like, I wasn't getting a thought process output ever until I started prompting for it in a specific way, right? And so I love that. It gives me potential scenarios. I wanted to look at what happens if we're in a 10% model and the monthly profit's high. What happens if the monthly profit is low? All right, now how can we implement these? What are some resources that we need? What are some of the obstacles and challenges that we might face with this particular comp plan or tree, a branch of the tree? Same thing for 15% profit share, same outputs, just same thought process, or what have you. Same thing for 20%. All right, great. So here's my next prompt. For each of the 3 proposed bonus pool options, evaluate their potential. Consider their pros and cons, initial efforts needed, implementation difficulties, potential challenges, and expected unexpected outcomes. Assign a probability, of success and a confidence level to each option based on these factors. Bingo. All right, so goes out, evaluates, gives me potential pros, cons, implementation difficulties, potential challenges, expected outcomes. of each of these different plans and gives me a confidence level. Probability of success for the 10% share, 80% confidence level high. Okay. 15% profit share, different pros, different cons a little bit. Probability of success, 70% confidence level medium. 20% profit share, probability of success, 60% confidence level medium. Sam says, please note that the assigned probability of success and confidence levels are subjective estimates based on the information provided, potential challenges associated with each option. It's important. So he's even giving me some insights. Do I need to go a little deeper here? Do I need to reprompt him a little bit because of the feedback? And again, at Jonathan's point, I'm having a conversation. So if we think I'm having a conversation with my chief financial officer, would I just stop there? Or would I maybe go, all right, that's a good point. Let's dive a little deeper into that. So again, don't be afraid to modify the framework depending on what you're trying to get from it and or depending on the outcomes or the output that you actually get from SAM or the LLM. Okay, so here is my final prompt and final answer. Great, thank you. Yeah, again, here, great job, thank you. That's what I would say to my chief financial officer if he or she had gone and done all this research and analysis and brought me back a plan. I'd be like, great job, thank you, all right? So based on the scenarios and evaluations of each option you've provided, let's rank the suggested solutions in order of promise to solve the problem of creating a company profit sharing pool for all employees to keep them incentivized for long-term employment. That's my goal. I want to keep them incentivized for long-term employment with my profit sharing plan, provide a justification for each ranking, and offer final recommendations. The ultimate goal is to develop an employee bonus plan that keeps our best talent loyal to our company. Just want to be clear with Sam about what my goal is here, right? Again, if we go back to the slide here about prompt engineering, specificity, right? It really helps the LM with its output. So here's the final answer. And this is just copy and paste right from the thread. It literally suggested that we go with the 15% profit share as the preferred final plan based on, and I agree with it. I actually then thought, all right, so do I like 10? Do I like 15? Do I like 20? Do I agree with the 15? And I agree with it. I like it. It says it strikes a balance between providing a substantial bonus pool versus it not being substantial enough. While the solution or the bonus amount may be smaller, 10% profit. It offers a strong motivator while maintaining a focus on profit retention. Whereas the 10% might be enough, but it might not be meaningful enough in order to really encourage long-term employment. And 20% may be too much. So gave me my final plan, my communication plan, my introduction to probability factors, and some other things to focus on and look at as I'm implementing this plan updates. I thought these were really good suggestions, by the way. Discuss how hard work, productivity, and efficiency drive profitability. That's the whole goal with this, was I want my team members to really buy into, hey, I'm going to get a better bonus each month and at the end of the year if we're more productive and efficient as a company. And if my colleague over here, my fellow team member is also more productive and efficient. And so if the whole team isn't pulling together in the same direction, then we're not going to be as profitable. And therefore, everyone's not going to have less or share in a smaller pool. And so that's really the ultimate goal here, is to encourage more teamwork, more accountability, more incentivization to really be. But here you can see Sam is telling me, hey, make these points with your team members. Discuss with them how hard work and productivity and efficiency are going to drive profitability for the company and therefore increase your bonus pool. Share with them how individual or team efforts impact company financial performance. So I'm getting all this coaching from the final output based on the Tree of Thought framework. And this was all really good for me to go ahead and implement this. So I literally copied this into a separate document and have sent it to my ops manager for her to review. And then her and I are going to talk about it. So that's how I use the Tree of Thought framework to solve, I wouldn't call it a problem. It was just a business challenge, a business scenario that I wanted to solve. And rather than me trying to think through it all on my own or hiring an outsourced chief financial officer to help me with that problem, I engaged the Tree of Thought framework and LM or AI to do it with me or for me. Okay, so yeah.
This is amazing. This is so much further beyond, let's write a little piece of content in ChatGPT. This is so far beyond that. It's amazing. And you've given me a great idea around solving problems in our own company. One of the challenges we're facing right now is we switched to the sabbatical system about a year ago, where we every 8 weeks, half the team's off. And so that creates its challenges, but it's a good bonus. And as a leadership team, we're debating sabbaticals or unlimited PTO. And I think that's my next step. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go see what ChatGPT says about that, giving all the factors of team size, things like that. And I'll be able to feed all that in. I think that's going to solve a big problem for us. So
Awesome.
Really appreciate the work that you put into this.
Thank you. You're welcome. And I appreciate that. And maybe you'll end up finding a different option, a third option that you haven't thought about. Maybe it's not sabbatical. Maybe it's not. It's something else that it finds through that tree of thought prompting. But that's awesome. Really good.
But I think Lyn made a really good point. I want to go back to as well, Lane, to mention you talked earlier that so many people, at least in our worlds, are talking about ChatGPT as a content creation tool.
Right.
How can I do this? How can I do that? How can I write this? How can I write that? And it's amazing at that. Whether you're talking a blog post for your website, a video script that you need to do, I use it for that daily, or whether we're talking standard operating procedures. But what this allows us to do, in my mind, is take it to an entirely different level and turn ChatGPT and Bard into real consultative resources that can help us manage our businesses and run our businesses in a better way. I shared with you last night, we were talking, or yesterday afternoon, I've used these same tools in this same exact tree of thought prompting framework to go through and help me make plans for my new business, Whitebeard Strategies, as to what niches I want to be focused in, what services I wanted to offer, and how that looked. I had all kinds of ideas. I've been thinking about this for years, but I'd never really honed it down and got it down to a clarified point. And this tree of thought framework allowed me to go through that and have ChatGPT help guide me through that process. I still made the decisions, but it was having a conversation. And it took what would have legitimately taken me weeks to work through and wrangle with. And literally, I took care of it in a couple hours on a Saturday afternoon. In fact, this past Saturday, and got 99% of the way to my final goal. And that's where I think it's so exciting, because we're not only able to create great content, but we're able to take something that would have normally involved literally multiple days of time and planning and research, distill that down.
People too.
Yeah, very good point. I would have definitely brought in other advisors in that, and I was able to distill that down into less than 4 hours of total work, 100% total work, and have it completed. And that's huge.
I've seen 2 prompts in the last couple of days that go right along with this conversation. One of them was someone had created their own ChatGPT therapist and using cognitive behavioral therapy treatment and the knowledge of that, asked the questions, and they built their own simple therapist about, hey, how are you feeling today? And putting in their thoughts, their feelings, and it would challenge their thoughts and feelings on, is that a helpful thought? And using some things like that. I thought that was really amazing. I haven't had a chance to play with that yet. The other one that I saw yesterday was a guy created his own mastermind using the thought processes of whoever you would put in there. But this particular guy had Bill Gates and Gandhi and Warren Buffett and whatever in his mastermind. And they were training the thought. And then he was asking it questions to answer based on their knowledge. So I thought that was 2 really cool prompts that I haven't had a chance to use yet or try yet, but definitely going to be digging into that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. Have to experiment with that. Yeah, some ideas there for sure. I do have a couple of prompts here too, as Lyn's talking about some prompts. So I labeled the prompt to get the perfect prompt if you're stumped or lazy. So, hello, Sam. I'm looking for your collaboration to create the best possible prompt. The prompt should be, from my perspective, here's how we can achieve that. So then you're just saying, hey, ask me about the topic for the prompt. Based on my input, please generate a revised prompt. And we'll continue to reiterate and refine until we're satisfied with the final version. So if you don't know what the prompt is that you really need to look for, here's a prompt to get the prompt. So hopefully that helps. And I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, have heard that LLMs certainly can be trained with bias, right? And we've seen some live examples of that bias coming right out in outputs, whether it's been ourselves with our own examples, or we've seen the examples from other people that they've shared how they found the outcome or the output to be slightly to highly biased, politically or otherwise biased, whatever the bias might be there. So if you want a prompt to command and clear SAM of all pre-programmed biases, and there are many, I think they'll probably continue to work out and remove these biases. That's my feeling on it. We won't really know 100% whether OpenAI will start to try and clear these biases if they were already pre-programmed in by certain people. But we know there was definitely some political biases that were instituted into OpenAI's LM, and that was readily seen in terms of some of its output based on prompts. And so I use this prompt if you want to just completely clear it of all the pre-programmed biases. And I use this to have it create a very flattering poem about Donald J. Trump to see if it would really clear the bias or not. And this goes into, I was going to share to what Lyn was saying, is all the different ways that you can use Chat GPT, AI, large language models. You can just see from my threads here, I'm creating different threads on different things. And here's my Trump praise poem. I wanted to see, would that prompt clear? That was one I wanted to see if it still had bias in it after I cleared it. But you can use these. I'm using it for understanding the best principles of books very quickly. And I think the point here, and then Lyn was making this point was, or maybe it was Jonathan, we've been, as digital marketers, as agencies, for the last 3 to 4 months, I've been really observing the whole AI conversation. Just rather than taking a stand on this or what I think or what my opinions, I've been more observing, learning myself, observing, watching other people, what they're saying about it. And I think that in large part, which is why I wanted to do this class, is that we've been scratching the surface with AI on just some very, hey, create some social posts for me, create a press release for me, write some content, give me some keywords, that kind of stuff. All really good and very helpful and makes me a lot more efficient, I know, for me personally. But this tree of thought framework takes this, like several layers of the onion off and gets us a lot deeper into the real capabilities that exist with the knowledge of these LLMs. So let's see here. We have questions. April says, I like to treat Chat GPT like an intern. I pretend they have a basic knowledge, but I have to teach them what I want them to do. Yeah, that's a great way to think when it comes to prompt engineering. The opposite side of that coin is that these large language models are incredibly intelligent. Like it can pass the bar exam and the medical exam, and it's got like a master's degree in business and finance, and just because it has all of this knowledge in its database. Yes, treat it like an intern, be basic, specific, create context, all those prompt engineering basics, but understand that the underlying knowledge that exists there is it's insane how much knowledge is there for us to tap into. Richard says, I've even started asking it to provide any questions I may have missed with the information. Yeah, good point. Comes back with some things that I may not have already thought of it to include, so it can help you with what info it needs to provide the outcome you're looking for. Yeah, that's where the prompt, to get the prompt, or just asking questions and letting it teach you until you feel like you've got the right question and prompt and or output. Mike says, has anyone started to implement LLMs into GHL, including the native integrations they have? I have not, Mike. I don't know if anybody else has.
I have not yet.
I've not done anything.
One of the things that I am exploring, and I'm just starting it, so I'm at the beginning of this exploration, is how to train LLMs, my own LLM, like how to create my own large language model with my knowledge, me as a person, not my company. How do I take everything that I've got up here, and how do I train a large language model with the knowledge and experience that I have? That's my next big foray into this. I want to learn how to train large language models so that I can so no one else has what I have. I have all the knowledge that's out there, but then it's overlaid with my own knowledge and experience. And then obviously the prompt engineering that can come off of that with your own experience and knowledge as well. So that's just one that's the next place I'm pioneering in this area. Karen says, GPT continued to get me an answer with a colon. When I asked it not to, it still did. Asking 3 more times to remove punctuation, it would not give me a sentence without the colon. Any ideas why?
I can say I have definitely found that just like a computer, sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate, and there's not a good rhyme or reason. If you've got a teenager at home, you can probably relate.
I'd say it's got attitude some days.
There are days it does, and I have seen that. Karen, the only advice I can give you there, and I don't know if it would work well, but take that, if you want it to update the punctuation, take the content you've got, copy and paste it into a new prompt. And in that new prompt, it's essentially going to start over from scratch. It's going to erase its memory, and it's going to have the ability to probably get over whatever little tick it's caused it to not remove that. And you can, for example, I love to write things out and then take that, paste that into ChatGPT and say, please proofread and rewrite for better readability, improved comprehension, better punctuation, those type of things. At the same point, I'll tell you that at the end of the day, I trust Grammarly more for punctuation than I do ChatGPT.
Yeah, and this is probably going to sound overly simplistic or stupid potentially, Karen, but it just, what hit me when I saw your question was, if that's happening, I'd get my output. You can now use copy. They have the new copy. You're right here. You can just copy the entire output right there. I go over to Google Docs and just do find and replace. Just to, if it's, because I've tried to do that too. And sometimes, like Jonathan said, it's just got an attitude today and it won't do it. If I have to, and I've been doing a lot of that. Like I've been taking my output, copying it and coming over to Google Docs and then doing my work in a Google Doc, notwithstanding punctuation and grammar types of issues that we can run in Grammarly and Google Docs as well. But yeah, good point. I've seen the same issues. Mike says, I've moved items from chat into copy.ai. Yep, great.
The book prompt that you have pulled up is one of my favorite things to summarize a book and then give me a list of the action items that I can incorporate into my daily routine. That has been incredibly helpful on digging into a book and grabbing the bullet points out of it that we need to actually implement. So that's one of my favorite prompts.
Yes, it is for me too. I love reading and learning and reading books. I have found that probably 80% of all books, maybe higher, are like, if I could take 10% of that book into the best, I'd learn everything I need to learn from 10 to 20% of the book. And the other 80% was like filler or things that were supporting concepts, but the 10 to 20% of the concepts that I really need to learn and get out of that book were. And so to Lyn's point, that's why I used to subscribe to the book summaries club and get those executive book summaries every month. And because it was my fastest way to acquire knowledge and read books without having to read a 300-page book. I could get the cliff notes basically. And so I was able to just consume a lot of knowledge that way in a shorter amount of time. And ChatGPT is just taking that whole thought process and strategy to a whole other level. Because now, like Lyn said, it has all this in its database. So I can, granted, it may miss some things, and that's where you're not going to read the book. You may miss some of the key principles because the LM may not have it in its model, but it has been a game changer for me. I don't like using that term, but it has been in terms of being able to read and distill the knowledge out of books very fast and then create real action plans for applying them like this. Good stuff. Anybody else got a question or thought they want to add before we wrap it today? Okay.
Don't see any other questions, but Lane, Jonathan, this is amazing. I think you guys have stepped the ChatGPT level knowledge of this group and myself up a few notches. And so I want to tell you, I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you. It's great. Thank
Absolutely.
you, John. Yeah.
I would say Lane gets the credit for the amazing presentation and a lot of the homework behind this. He asked me to join in and share my opinion, and those of you know I've always got one. So thank you very much for that offer, and I appreciate it. I agree. I think this entire tree of thought prompting is just an entirely new way to use the technology to help us in our businesses.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, if you guys would like a copy of the slide deck, the only thing I ask for you is go to Facebook or LinkedIn and just share something positive that you learned from today, and then tag me. And as soon as you get the tag, I will share the slide deck with you. And the reason I ask for that is it helps us just continue to grow the following of the Marketing Center of Excellence. There's no charge for this. I'm spending hours and hours of work doing the research for this stuff. And that's the only thing I ask is help us grow the Marketing Center of Excellence following. If you get value from this and then you'd like the slide deck, just throw out a shout out to Jonathan and Lyn and I. Tag me in the post, and then I'll share the slide deck with you so you can have the entire framework here and all the supporting links and resources that come with it as well to help you in your journey of leveraging AI and making it even more usable and efficient, and just what's the word I'm looking for? Just draw a blank, but just leveraging it to make better use of it and make you more successful in all the different things that we have as agency owners. And I think I'll leave you with this too, is this knowledge can also really help you with your clients and your prospects, right? Just thinking about how you can use some of this now to be different than everybody else. Because there's our space as marketing agency owners is crowded. We could call it a bloody red ocean. There's a lot of people out there hitting them up for SEO and PPC and websites and this and that and promises here and promises there. And every agency is all clumped into the same bloody red ocean. And it's only those who can differentiate, who can pull themselves out of it and create a blue ocean. And there's so many agencies aren't even leveraging AI, don't really understand it yet. They're just hearing about it. For those of you who are here, you're already on the cutting edge, but this will just put you even further ahead. And you could potentially use it, even just the knowledge of it, and helping pass some of that knowledge on to a prospect or a client of how they might be able to solve some of their problems in their business. You leveraging AI and your knowledge, it'll definitely make a difference in terms of separating you from the bloody red ocean of agencies who are all out there competing for the same business. So use it to differentiate yourself as an agency, and use the LLM and the knowledge, the tree of thought framework to even help solve business problems that your clients or prospects have as well. Jonathan, Lyn, I'll leave you guys with the last word.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Try this out. If you haven't, if you're wondering, take some of these prompts and play with them. Try them out. A little bit of polish on your side, and you'll be amazed at how these can help you in your business. Lane, Lyn, thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, and from my perspective, fantastic presentation. I think like I said, I think you increased my knowledge of AI today. But the thing that I've always thought around AI, around anything really, is just to learn to ask better questions. I think you can be a better coach, better teacher, better parent when you ask better questions. Just continually probe and ask questions of your team, of your family, and now of AI. Let's ask AI all the right questions.
Awesome. That's a great way to end. Lyn, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me as co-host. Everyone else who's been here today, I hope this added value to your day and to your business, and that you learned something from it. Again, if you want the slide deck, just give us a shout out on Facebook or LinkedIn, tag me, and I'll fire off the slide deck to you right away. Everyone, have a great day. Appreciate your time and attention today. Make it the rest of your week a great week as well. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you next month. Bye-bye.